Hello and welcome back to Warhammer 40k. We're on a countdown to Christmas and it is now the 6th of December. So we're on our daily grind to Christmas Day and we're pitting a Necron unit up against a Space Marine unit that's very similar in stature. And today's video is going to be the Annihilation Barge against the Whirlwind. So guys, if you haven't already, subscribe below. Do me a huge favour, press that subscribe button. We're knocking out daily content right up until Christmas Day. So hit that button below. So as for the video today, what would you pick? So you're either going to be Team Necrons or Team Space Marines. Now, spoiler alert, currently the Space Marines are winning 3 points to 2 against the Necrons. So let's see if the Annihilation Barge can pull it back. So in terms of the points, the Annihilation Barge is 120 points, could be 5 points extra for the Gauss Cannon, and then the Whirlwind is 125 points at a base cost, but there are also options there as well, so they're quite similar in price. So let's start comparing data sheets, starting with the stats. So they're both going at 12 inches, they're both hitting on 3s. The Whirlwind has a better toughness of toughness 7, although the Annihilation Barge does have quantum shielding, so it does make up for it in that sense. There's more wounds with the Whirlwind with 11, then everything else is either irrelevant or just exactly the same as one another. Now, even though the Whirlwind has slightly better stats, you got to also remember that it's got a degrading stat line. So once it does drop below 6 wounds, the movement, the ballistic skill and the attacks will drop from a 12-inch movement to 6-inch movement. Ballistic skill 3 will go up to a ballistic skill value of a 4+, and the attacks don't really matter too much, but it'll go to D3. Then it will further drop down when it goes to 2 wounds or less with only 3-inch movement and a ballistic skill value of a 5+. So even though it has got slightly better stats, I'm going to give this point to both the units here because the Annihilation Barge does not have a degrading stat line because it doesn't have 10 wounds or more. Now as for the abilities for both units, starting with the Whirlwind, it's only got Angels of Death, and out of those 4 abilities, it's only really the combat doctrines that are going to have any effect, adding an additional AP in the Devastator Doctrine to those heavy weapons, or it could be the Tactical Doctrine with the Storm Bolter. Now it's also worth mentioning here at this part, the main weapon on the Whirlwind doesn't actually need visibility to the target unit, so it doesn't need line of sight, which is a massive key factor. It could stay completely out of sight and still be firing, where of course most other units within the game will need line of sight. Now as for the abilities for the Annihilation Barge, well, it's got Living Metal, so it's regaining a lost wound each turn. It's got the command protocols if within 6 inches of a character to be gaining those buffs. But the most important one here is the quantum shielding for that 5+ invulnerable save, and it can't be wounded on less than a 4+. So for me those abilities are much more superior to the point where we're going to the Annihilation Barge. As for damage output, you're either taking the Gauss Cannon or the Tesla Cannon, and then you're taking the Twin Tailor Destroyer. Now if you are taking Annihilation Barge, you may as well be taking the Tesla Cannon. Now this thing isn't the most competitive unit in the Codex right now, but going against toughness 3 armies such as Drukhari or Sisters of Battle for example, the Tesla weapons are much better against those kind of factions, because you're likely going to be wounding them on 2s, and you don't really need the AP or damage to go with it. But the most important part with Tesla is if you roll any 6s to hit, it'll give you an additional 2 hits there. If you work out the actual averages of that, it's almost like having a ballistic skill value of a 1+. So if you've got a total of 13 Tesla shots at strength 6 or strength 7, going up against toughness 3, they're all going to be wounded on 2, so you can throw them into the same dice pool. With 13 shots, on average, you should be getting 13 hits. Now, of course, averages don't exactly work like that. Whereas if you're taking it with the Gauss Cannon, yes, it's got a lot more AP and damage, but you don't need that damage against those kind of models that have got 1 wound and barely any armor save. But in terms of the damage output, if you're going up against, say, a Guardian unit, the Annihilation Barge will probably take out on average 7 Guardians, and if you're going up against, say, a Space Marine Intercessor unit, it will take 1.5 intercessors off the board, which isn't that great to be honest, and that's a really good example. When you go against toughness 3 factions, it's just much better than going up against toughness 4 factions, especially ones with multi-wounds. Now as for the Whirlwind's damage output, so with the Whirlwind Vengeance Launcher, it's got that range of 72 inches, heavy 2d3, strength 7, -1 AP, 2 damage. Now I'm not a big fan of strength 7 weapons. It's too powerful to go against toughness 3 models, because strength 6 would have done it just fine to wound on 2s, and it's also too powerful to go against toughness 4 or even toughness 5 models. You only need a strength value of a 5 or a 6 to be wounding them on 3s. So really strength 7 is built more towards vehicles and monsters, but the damage is only damage 2 and it's only -1 AP to go with it. So it's kind of caught in the middle of not being good at either of those things, whether it's anti-infantry or anti-tank. But on average with this you'll be killing 2 Guardians or 1.7 Intercessors. Now if you were to exchange that for the Whirlwind Castellan Launcher, this has got slightly more shots because it's 2d6, it's only strength 6, no AP, 1 damage. On average, it's killing 2 to 3 Guardians and half an Intercessor. I'd rather take the Tesla options with the Annihilation Barge. As for some synergy, well, if talking about the Annihilation Barge, when you're putting it into a dynasty, the 2 best dynasties for this to go with, the Mefrit dynasty to get the added range and AP, and also the Annihilate dynasty because it's quite a survivable unit. It's got the quantum shielding of course, so it's going to have objectives secured and it's going to be quite hard to shift off an objective. You can further synergize with units such as the Technomancer. With the Canoptic Cloak, it can be healing D3 lost wounds each time as long as it's within the same dynasty, and likewise, a Canoptic Spider can take the Fabrication Claw Array to also be healing D3 wounds, but this time to a dynasty vehicle, but it is a dynasty vehicle, so it will be healing it. Then furthermore, if you're taking a Tryout Stalker, using its targeting relay, get the Stalker to fire first, so any other Necrons unit that's firing at the same target gets to reroll hit rolls of a 1. So with all those Tesla shots that are missing, you're going to get to reroll them, and there'll be more chances of exploding 6s. Now with the Whirlwind, of course you've got to talk about Tech Marine, which will allow the Whirlwind to be hitting on a 2+, and also he can be healing D3 lost wounds each turn as well. Further be boosted if you're taking a Master of the Forge to just heal a flat 3 wounds as opposed to D3. There's then a stratagem that's available to the Whirlwind, which is the Suppression Fire stratagem for 1 command point. If you fire your main weapon, then the enemy unit that you've targeted will not be able to fire Overwatch or Set to Defend. Now, Overwatch or Set to Defend aren't the biggest things at the moment in 9th edition, however there are certain units that really want to be using Overwatch, and I hear it in the comments quite often. If you're playing Blood Angels for example, and you're going in with your Assault Intercessors, use this in the shooting phase at the unit you want to charge at, and then get you guys to go in without any Overwatch. You've of course got a Librarian as well with a Psychic Fortress to get a 5+ invulnerable save, and then when you're talking about actual chapters, which we've just mentioned the Blood Angels chapter, but there's also other melee chapters such as the Black Templars to give a 5+ invulnerable save. You got Dark Angels so they'll be hitting on 2s with the Grim Resolve ability, or Iron Hands as well so that the damage table isn't as bad as it could be. All in all, when you add all the synergy up, both units synergize pretty well with their codex, so I want to give the point to both of them. Then the final topic today is the resiliency. Now of course we've already spoke about the quantum shielding on the Annihilation Barge, which can actually be upgraded with a stratagem called Quantum Deflection. For a command point, we'll turn that 5+ invulnerable save into a 4+ invulnerable save, and you can't win on less than a 4+, whereas the Whirlwind doesn't have anything, it doesn't have an invuln save, so it's only really got its 3+ armor save when you're comparing resiliency, so that's another easy point there to the Annihilation Barge. So overall, perfect score for the Annihilation Barge. I've scored this 5-2 in favour of the Annihilation Barge. Now I'm not saying it's the most competitive unit here, I'm literally just comparing it to a Whirlwind, which I also don't think is the greatest of units in the Space Marine Codex. But unit versus unit, I'm definitely taking Annihilation Barge. So that puts the scores tied at 3 apiece, so we'll have to see who can take the lead in the next video. So guys, a kind reminder, if you haven't already subscribed, subscribe below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.